All right, let's everybody come on in and sit down. Board of County Commissioners now back in session. Mr. Kirk Blair, TDC.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Commissioners, we put everything in your today's folder just in case you had any questions. Then after the meeting, I guess Michael's going to put it in the archives or wherever that folder is that's off there. The first thing that you see on your iPads, I think, are some articles, and so I'll jump down to that. We've had some pretty good coverage in the last 30 days. Fedora Magazine has announced that we're one of 14 top small towns to visit. So that was some good exposure. And also, we've got the same sort of report from BuzzFeed, which is an online news blog activity that has identified Franklin County and Apalachicola as one of those places you need to visit. We were featured in Travel Life magazine in the current issue with an article that was written by one of the people that we had invited down for a FAM tour, and so that was good. And for those of you that look at our website from time to time, we've added a new feature which I think is spectacular. We've got a drone view of St. George Island, and we're going to be doing this for the other areas as well. But this pretty well captures in about 30 seconds to a minute, you know, what St. George Island and the beaches and the lighthouses and everything else is all about. So we're going to start doing that in some of the other areas. And finally, See South Mississippi. We don't think of a lot of people coming here from Mississippi, but it is within our 6-hour drive time. So they did a comparison article of Galveston, Texas, St. Simon's Island, and off of Georgia, and Franklin County as the three places. And these are largely seen as our two biggest competitors along the south coast. So we had a nice article. She did a real nice article on that, and that's on your pad. Our numbers are once again back up in the 7% range for increases per month. For the last month we had reported was May, and that was up. Actually, your chart says 6%. When I went back and calculated it again yesterday, I got to closer to 7%. But that was where we were overall last month, and so we're sustaining, you know, our increased level. And I'll point out to you that we maintain that on the 2%. All the other counties around us are at 4% and 5%, and so we're doing real well for what we're collecting. In part in response to, I was going to bring to you today the sustaining grant applications or contracts. We don't have them today. The board wanted to spend a little bit more time with the nonprofits discussing, you know, the provisions of the grant program. So we'll be doing that tomorrow, and I'll be bringing those hopefully in September. In part in response to some comments that were made at the commission meeting several months ago, Commissioner Parrish, we've been able to arrange again for more hospitality training. The first one we're looking to do is in the first couple of weeks of October, and then we're looking to do another one in February. So you'll be hearing more about that as time goes on, and the interest continues to be very high for that. I spent the first week of the month up in Georgia at a marketing training week that I've been participating in for the last couple of years, and about 250 people from all of the marketing, the TDCs, the visitors centers around the southeastern United States, and we get together every year and brought back some real worthwhile things to share with our board, and we'll be doing that. And then for next month, in addition to the grant contracts, we're going to talk about our annual marketing plan strategy for the year. So that's what I expect to bring to you next month. That's essentially our report. Be happy to answer any questions about that or anything that was in your packet.
Anybody have any questions, Mr. Kurt?
Mr. Chairman, it's a pleasure of the board, but Mr. Schuler has an item that is regarding TDC, and if maybe we could consider taking it up now while Kurt is here, but it'd be the pleasure of the board, Mr. Chairman.
That'd be fine.
All right, sir, good morning. Item number 3 on the report, the clerk has asked me to provide the board with a legal opinion concerning a certain 10% cap on beach park facilities funding in the TDC. The issue arises because you have 2 bathroom improvement projects which would otherwise meet the 10% cap. Your TDC revenues are $950,000. The 10% cap would be $95,000. And you're also providing some services for beach cleanup in the amount of $50,000. So if you add the 95 and 50 together, in theory, under one view, that could exceed potentially the 10% cap for beach park facilities funding. Or is that funding potentially authorized by another section of the statute? The clerk has asked for a legal opinion on that issue, and I was looking for the pleasure of the board on whether you wanted me to render that opinion or not.
Are you comfortable with the way that we're doing things?
Well, I haven't looked at it, Commissioner, but based
I mean,
on...
but you've kind of been kicking it around for a few months, because I know this is not the first time that we've discussed, this has come up for debate, I guess you would say.
I am generally aware of the issue that's been raised concerning whether or not there's what total services and improvements come under the 10% cap for beach park facilities funding, or whether it is some of that funding is authorized under other sections. I've made a preliminary look at that particular issue. I'm not ready to render an opinion to the board, but there are multiple funding sources that are authorized under the statute, which could be in support of the proposed budget that's being set forth and approved tentatively by the TDC and the County Commission. But again, I've not made an independent professional investigation. And I'm not rendered a final opinion on that. It's just preliminarily, just based on general understanding of the TDC statute. You have basically categories that involve services, categories that involve advertising, categories that involve improvements. And what you're looking at in this case, generally speaking, for beach park facilities is you've got a service for cleanup, and you're looking at potential improvements at beach park facilities. But I typically do not render opinions on TDC-related issues without getting specific authorization from the board. So I've received the request, and I'm coming to the board for your pleasure as to whether I should render that opinion or not.
In the past, when you and I have had some discussions along these lines, you've told me that the Attorney General historically has granted tourism development broad discretionary powers
That is correct.
to the Board of County Commissioners in deciding these statute limitations or statute decisions.
Absolutely, that is correct.
And has that been your experience in reading? I mean, I think there's, a limited number of AG opinions on this, or?
There are a number of AG opinions that are out there, Commissioner Jackal, but there is a theme that runs throughout those opinions, which says that the county commission has the legislative discretion to make certain findings of fact as to whether or not the expenditure of the TDC funds is or is not principally related for the benefit and improvement or tourist-related activities in the county, and that is definitely a discretion that is vested with this board.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion that he render us a decision, give us some information.
All right, Mr. Noel makes a motion to Mr. Schuler get us some information up on. Do I have a second?
By the next meeting?
Pleasure of the board.
I'll
By the
second,
next meeting?
by the next
Meeting.
meeting. I'll second that. I don't have no problem with it, because I think it's all in there together, so,
Okay.
I mean, that's my thought.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Is that all, Mr. Kurt?
That's all. I got it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Miss Kathleen, would you come forward for a moment?
Good morning. My name is Kathleen Oman. I am the new acting president of the Friends of the Franklin County Public Library, and I'm introducing myself, and I hope that with the new administration, we have better relations with the board. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Planning and zoning, Michael.
Good morning, Commissioners. In front of you, you have 3 critical shoreline applications for approval. I was unable to attend that P and Z meeting, so I have Amy right up here to my left, in case you guys have any questions about any of those 3 applications.
Number 3, it says, I got a little confused on this. It says City of St. George, Caravelle.
The subdivision over at Yance Bayou, Commissioner.
It is called City of St. George?
Yes,
City
ma'am.
of St. George is a 1940s plat, been there for.
It's one of the earliest.
I
plats.
didn't know that. So
Really?
there is a City of St.
There
George
you
On the
go.
bay.
in Caravelle.
Long time ago.
Well, no, it's not
At Yance Bayou.
It's in Yance
Yes,
Bayou.
Bayou.
And what makes it doubly complicated, a number of years ago, the city of St. George was never really built, and it was platted out but never sold in its configurations on the north side. The south side might have been. On the north side, you have 1 acre lots overlaid. It's a nightmare from a title. I can say that.
I guess I'm just too young to know
That's when they
that.
used to have the hotel and the curb right
That's what I'm
there,
talking
the
about.
hotel and all.
That's how you do it, that's
That's
it.
where you gotta be born and raised here.
No, you don't.
Hey,
And
on the third one, I got a question. On this one, okay, you got one that's contingent upon federal, are all these contingent on federal and state permit?
No, we have a DEP permit on number 1. We received it during the process, but DEP tells us that we can't hold up the process of reviewing it, but we can't issue it until we have the documents in place.
so we continue.
But anyway, we gotta go ahead and vote on it, but we don't have the documents in place.
Well, DEP, basically, a number of years ago, they streamlined their permitting process. The legislature did and said that, if you as an applicant say, I believe I comply, then you can move forward with that, and DEP isn't gonna hold you up. But there's a separate permit for Corps of Engineers, so we usually have them together, but in order not to get in trouble with DEP saying we're holding people up, now we've got to separate the deal out and say, okay, we approve you with the DEP, but we won't issue the permit until we see the Corps of Engineers.
Another question, on item number 3, where exactly, Amy, is that dock going?
It's going directly behind the home.
Where at?
It's in between East Point and Caravelle.
I know where at, but where at in Yent Bayou? Is it gonna be in Yent Bayou itself?
No. It's gonna be in the St. George Sound.
It's in that curve right there where
Is
them
it
houses
in
built
it?
out
You'll see
there.
a
in that
house, it's a
curve.
blue
Yeah.
house on Pylons, and it's got a rock revetment, basically
Yeah.
on 3 sides of it.
I
And
just
they're
wanna make
asking-
sure it wasn't gonna be in Yent Bayou
No.
itself.
No,
No, it's not.
That's what I was concerned about.
And Alan and Michael, because of the whole split with DEP and Corps, do we need to, does the motion have to be contingent? Or-
Yeah, and we're not gonna issue the county permit until the Corps permit shows up.
All right.
I make a motion that we approve these contingent on the, federal and state permits being obtained
All 3 of them?
on all 3 of them.
Second.
Have a motion second on the floor. All in favor?
Uh,
All opposed? Motion carries.
And on the 4th item, we need approval for a public hearing for rezoning.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Marshall Johnson has no report today. Michael Monroe, County Coordinator, report.
There we go. Item 1, inform the board that the governor signed an executive order designating Franklin County, along with other counties, as a rural area of opportunity. I attached a copy of that executive order. Item 2, inform the board that the Franklin County Health Department has invited the board and other community leaders to the Health in All Places tour. In attendance will be the State Surgeon General and Secretary of Health, Dr. John Armstrong. The event will be held at the Esterine Reserve on Thursday, the 20th at 9 a.m. I also attached a copy of the press release. At the June 15 meeting, the chairman requested that I submit a request to Transfield DOT to reduce the speed on US Highway 98 to 45 miles per hour in the area of the RV parks east of the East Point Visitor Center. Transfield has informed me that on Thursday, I'm sorry, they informed me on Thursday that DOT's traffic evaluation did not justify changing the speed limit.
You reckon we can call them back and see if they can put a sign up or just saying it's a crossing, or you know what I'm saying,
I
ahead?
could try and let them
Yeah.
know that pedestrians,
Yeah,
heavy
just-
pedestrians crossing.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, so I'll do that.
When you talk to them about that, the visitor center sign is pointing into someone's private driveway, and
I
it's
have
not.
called them and called them and
I
told
know.
them.
We
We-
just need to move it ourselves.
We've been talking about it for about 6 months,
Yeah.
and I got a call from the folks that live there, and people are turning into their driveway and turning around, so it's just a simple
We're just
thing.
gonna move it. We're just gonna move it.
We just have to get Buster to run out there tomorrow and move it. That's Miss, Bo Bentley. Yeah, I've called and called them, and we have called and had them, and Allen's called 2 or 3 times trying to get them to move it.
And I see them at church, and they,
If nothing else, I'll take my post over to Diggers and go move it.
Yeah, it's not concrete then.
No, it's just straight down, just move it. It needs to move ahead about 25 foot, 30 foot.
thank you.
Okay. Item 4, Ms. Attorney Lucy Turner, of course, you know that Carson Atkins is retiring on August 21st. That's this Friday. Mr. Pierce, Attorney Schuler, Aaron Griffith, and I met with Attorneys Turner and Carson, and they introduced us to Attorney John Sawicki. That's correct, Alan? Sawicki? Yes. And who will now handle all of our labor matters. He will be here next month. He wasn't sure which meeting yet to introduce himself to the board. Item 5, inform the board that the county has been notified that St. George Cable has entered into an agreement to sell its system on St. George Island to Mediacom Southeast LLC. A copy of that letter is attached for your review. Item 6, I'm going to change, I need a motion, it's kind of similar to what Ann did. I need a motion to, for the chairman's authorize the chairman's signature on one of those JAG grants for the sheriff's department.
So
Kind of
moved.
repetitive, but
Second.
Have a motion second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
thank you, Commissioners. Item 7, I'm sure you guys have been getting calls about this. There's an ongoing shelling program in the bay using a small barge, or multiple
Who operates that barge?
barges. I'm not sure, I have to call Dax.
Contract by.
White
It
jellyfish.
was, what, Roger Newton?
Smokey knows who it is.
I'm sorry, Commissioner?
The name of the company is White Jellyfish that received a bid to do the planting the shells in the bay by a barge. And they're continuing with that contract. They did one previously about 6 months ago.
Where are they from? Do you know, Commissioner Perry?
I don't have a clue.
Texas?
White Jellyfish is out of Panama City, but he's subcontracted with the individuals that are running the barge and putting the shells in the bay, so I don't know where they're from.
Okay.
Well, I've been getting a lot of calls on that. And while we having a meeting, I appreciate it, we let them know that it's not a county situation. I mean, it's long, the state over this, right?
The state is over. This is actually a NERDA project or early restoration project that had to be approved by the 10 trustees, 2 from each of the 5 states. And it all had final approval of BP. And BP wanted this money spent using barges, so therefore the money could not be transferred over or used in a different way, such as the Osterman plant and shells. BP had final control as it was an early restoration project that was not mandated by the courts. This is something they struck out and done early before they were mandated by the courts of exactly what they would have to do to replenish it and to help the environment recover from the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. So the state or anyone else is not able to move those monies around based on the final approval of BP. So, and then the state had the authorization to award the bid to the low bidding company to place the shells in the bay. So that's kind of where we're stuck at with this particular project.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion that my motion is to let, I guess, the workforce explain to the people that we don't have nothing to do with it because they is constantly calling, asking about why they not using the money to add to them, you know, putting money in off the boat.
Shannon has fought it. He tried to stop it, but I mean, there's nothing he can do.
Well, and back then, if you'll remember, we sent a letter
Yeah.
to DAC saying that we were against any
Objected to
out-of-state company coming in here and getting
Yes,
this
ma'am.
shelling.
But my motion is to let the workforce explain to the people that we not involved, it's just something
Right.
happened.
Let them know that there's nothing to do with the county, it's through the state.
It's just something have them
So you want
up the
staff,
chain.
staff to contact workforce and ask them?
Yeah,
Right.
so they can explain it to the people, that way they'll know what's going on, because it's some kind of way they not communicating with them.
I have a motion on the floor.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
And hopefully our discussion here will be picked up by, the news media too, and that'll help the situation.
Yeah.
Save you guys some calls. Item A, board action to allow the marathon event Running for the Bay to occur on Sunday, October 18th. We contacted TDC, and there are no events for that day. As it's the fifth year of the event, and I attached a copy of the insurance, the certificate of liability insurance to your iPads for your information.
One question on that.
Yes, ma'am.
In years past, they have made a contribution to a community organization for our approval and use of Franklin County for this facility. So
Yeah, Mr. Pearson.
what have they done? They usually put it in trust or bring a deposit. Have they done that?
I have, all I got was an email when I was on vacation.
I know.
I presume they will. I mean, to my knowledge, nothing has changed from the years past, including the deposit, including the contributions to charity, I presume.
They give, what, $2,500?
I think it was
Okay, well,
And I
I'll
will
make a
verify.
motion to approve this contingent upon
the same.
the same contribution being made to the organization.
Okay.
Because the guy that organizes that is well aware of that. We require him to do that.
Second.
Have a motion second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
And what I will
And
do.
just make sure that they clean up the bridges when they get finished and all the common areas that they use on the run.
And once I get the confirmation, email commissioners, I'll forward that to you all.
They
so you
leave a
have that
big
for your
mess,
record.
but they do clean, I mean, it makes a big mess, but they do a pretty good job of cleaning it up.
Bridges. Yes, ma'am. Item 9, inform the board that the Airport Advisory Committee failed to have a quorum to review the RFQ submitted at the last board meeting for airport consulting engineers. According to the FAA standards, the committee needs to review and rank the responses. So unless the board wants to create another committee, the airport committee will try again to meet and to rank the proposals. Mr. Schuler has provided Mr. Mosteller with a ranking sheet and a small explanation.
Do we have a deadline on that?
Well, no, we don't have really a deadline, but we need to move forward. We put an RFQ out there, we need to go ahead and resolve that.
And that was those 3 companies that,
Well, we could always bring them to this board and interview them,
That's an option.
and just knock it
The
out.
airport committee, one more shot.
Well, Commissioners, I have, and Mr. Mosteller is still here in the audience. Mr. Mosteller brought this issue to me, I guess it was the week after the board had opened the RFQs and directed that the airport committee make the evaluations. In looking at the circular issued by the FAA that regulates the selection of the engineers, I have prepared a review criteria and scoring sheets for the airport committee. One of the issues that Mr. Mosteller brought to my attention is that you have a number of people who are appointed to the airport committee, but not all of them are necessarily showing up and participating. And his question to me was, well, who of the membership do I give the RFQs to? And well, the obvious answer is the board said airport committee, so you have to give it to all of them. It does create a bit of a procedural quandary for Mr. Mosteller. So for streamlining purposes, it might be better if the board were to appoint a specific 5-person evaluation committee. It can consist of the airport committee members who are participating. I mean, that's entirely up to the board. But there needs to be an evaluation committee. They need to receive these RFQs. They need to rank them and score them according to the scoring criteria that I've prepared for the airport committee. They need to do the scoring needs to be done separately and individually by these committee members. They don't need to get together in a room and do it. They need to score these individually and then schedule a public hearing and then present the rankings in that public hearing is in terms of how the different firms ranked out, either top 1, 2, or 3, because you only had three firms that submitted. At that public hearing, the evaluation committee would then make one of 2 decisions. They would either accept the numerical rankings and send that number 1 ranked proposer to this board for your consideration as to whether to enter into negotiations with them, or they could they could elect to hold interviews If they did elect to hold interviews, they would schedule a subsequent public meeting. They would interview those 3 engineering firms, and then they would immediately hold a public hearing to consider and have the final rankings and submit that number 1 firm to this board. So they can either go with the numerical rankings, or they can do numerical rankings plus interviews. At the end of the day, that whichever process they use, that number 1 ranked firm would be sent back to this board for your consideration.
Well, couldn't he just conference call all the members and say, who wants to participate in this, and get 5 and then mail them out?
Well, no, because the board's directions at this point are that the airport committee, that consists of, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, I don't know how many people are on that committee. So when the board says all of those people need to participate, then they all need to participate. If
Okay.
participation is an issue, then I would recommend that the board name a 5-person, just because it's an odd number, it can be 3, it could be 5, it could be 7. 5 seems to be a fairly workable number. So that would be my recommendation to the board. But Ted, you would need to come tell me who the 5 people are. Who are the 5 people on the board who are regularly participating?
Well, can't we just authorize, this board just make a motion to accept your recommendation and let y'all work out all the gory details?
Well, I think the board needs to appoint the 5-person committee. If you would
Okay.
give 5 names, and they can consider that, and then they would move forward, Commissioner.
Be glad to. Good morning, Commissioners.
Why is it limited to 5? Why can't just the advisory committee that we've already appointed do it?
They could, Commissioner, but Ted is reporting to me that there's a participation issue. There may be, how many total people are on this committee, Ted?
We have 9 appointed persons,
And how many people are regularly participating?
5 or 6 usually.
Well, that's a
However,
quorum.
for this particular meeting, I only had 4, maybe.
Do we need to relook at that committee and make appointment?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that what the problem is, that we're not getting participation in there?
Yeah, it must be.
Yes.
Okay.
Would you want to do that now, or you want to,
My recommendation is to, instead of saying the entire committee or relying on the quorum, Commissioner, I hear what you're saying, but I think you just need to name 5 people to be the evaluation committee. And obviously, they're going to be on this airport board, but these appear to be the 5 that are participating. It just makes it cleaner for the record and easier for, your staff to contend with the evaluation and ranking of these RFPs, so they can be sent back to
And then
this
look at
board.
the other stuff?
Then
in the
look at
meantime?
reconstituting
Okay.
this board at a future date, not this morning.
So they're gonna look at these individually anyway, so they can
Yes.
be mailed or
They can be mailed or emailed or
emailed,
however,
whatever.
hand
Because you
delivered.
just want each commissioner just pick one out of their district.
I'm not sure what the constituency is of the airport advisory
I
board, but
think
that would be
every
fine.
commissioner's probably got one.
Okay, that's fine. One
know if
person
I've
per
got
commissioner,
one.
but we need to go ahead.
I mean,
Do you have one?
we have some-
I don't know.
I mean, I would rather you all allow the people who participate, the top 5 most active members, go ahead and make the selection.
Who's the top
It's
5,
not
Mr.
just
Ted?
one.
okay, myself, Frank Stevens,
Chad a voting member?
I'm sorry.
Chairman.
Okay.
He's the chairman.
Okay, I'm the chairman, as appointed by you years ago. We have, Mr. Parrish is the commissioner representative,
But he's not a member.
but I don't think he's considered a voting member.
No, he's not.
So you
Okay.
said Frank Steve, who else comes to the meetings, Ted?
Frank Stevens, Chuck Marks, Randall Terry,
I'm sorry, who'd you say?
Randall Terry,
Perry? Oh,
Terry.
Terry, Randall
Randall
Terry,
Terry.
yes.
He's the 5th one.
Harold Marabella,
That's it?
Five.
that's fine.
Do those, they regularly?
Randy
participate?
Randolph,
They regularly participate.
What about Liz Rothy?
She's not a
Jeff
member.
Lockley.
She actually contacted, she's out of town.
She's out of town, yeah.
She's
Why
a
can't
member.
why can't he name us 5 of them out that he wants on there, and we can vote on this?
I'm
that's-
trying to reward the people who've been showing up and let them participate.
Okay.
That's what we're
Okay.
trying to get him to do.
Is that 5, Ted?
That would be 5, yes. Myself, Art Little's in North Carolina, he may not be here. Frank Stevens, Chuck
Give us
Marks,
5.
Al Marabella,
Okay,
Randy
who are they?
Randolph.
Okay. I have Ted, Frank Stevens, Chuck Marks, Randall Terry, and Al Mirabella.
I make a motion that we give this over to the committee for evaluation.
That's the committee,
Just
Ted.
named.
Second.
Fantastic. Thank you, Commissioners.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Have a second on the floor, all in favor? All opposed, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I also make a motion that we direct staff and the airport committee to get together and evaluate the membership that we have on board to see if we need to take another look at that and bring it back to the board at the next meeting.
Second.
Have a motion second on the floor, all in favor? All opposed, motion carries.
You know, the hospital has an attendance requirement for board members. If they miss 2 meetings or 3 meetings or something, then,
We should also have this.
you know, and that might be something good to look at. I know there are always extenuating circumstances, and we understand that. We're not trying to be the Gestapo. But those rules would be good to apply to P&Z, BOA, just have it across the board so that we're, you know, fair and balanced.
It's doing a lot of demand.
Alan, would you grab the papers that Mike's got right there?
Thank you.
All right, go, continue, Michael.
Okay, I got kind of out of order here, I'm sorry.
Number 10.
Yeah, number 10, and 10, 11 should have been switched. Board action to authorize the chairman's signature on 2 items to partially finalize the Chapman Auditorium re-roofing project, a certificate of substantial completion and a change order. The change order reduces the amount of the contract by $535, and the county is still holding a balance of $21,090 on the contract, waiting for the contractor to provide the warranty on the roof.
So moved.
But it's pretty much finished, Commissioners.
Second.
Have a motion second on the floor, all in favor? All opposed, motion carries.
And number 11, back to the airport. Board action to approve a FAA grant that is part of the funding for the runway rehab project. That's where Polaroid's Construction got that. Part of the money is coming from FDOT, and part of the money is coming from an FAA grant. The FAA was not going to release their funds until they reviewed and approved the bids. The board had previously opened on July 21st. Now they've done that, they're satisfied, and we need the agreements to be signed.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second on the floor, all in favor? All opposed, motion carries.
Okay, number 12. I could read entire number 12, but basically we're right back to the problem with the airport again, where we just have too many members.
I think for the public record, Michael, you need to.
I
read
will
it.
inform the board that the Planning and Zoning Committee has been operating at less than a full committee for some time, and getting a quorum is becoming more and more difficult. Rachel, Amy, Alan, and the Planning and Zoning Committee reviewed and recommended revisions to the zoning code, which includes revising the membership of the committee. The current membership structure requires a 9-member commission, but does not require geographic distribution of the members. This has caused complaints in the years past that parts of the county were dominating the commission. I'm referring to the P&Z Commission. The proposed committee would be made up of 5 members, representing each county commission district. 2 current members have announced that they would like to step down in December, and if that is the case, there will not be enough members to have a quorum, because those are regular attendees. If the board does not want to consider all the proposed revisions to the zoning code, which were mostly narrative changes necessary over the 25 years the code has been in effect, at least something needs to be done regarding the committee. I need some board direction on that. If the board wants to restructure the committee, then a public hearing needs to be set as the committee is established by an ordinance.
Mr. Chairman? may I say?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have a problem with it going down to 5 members, but I want to make sure that we have a quorum when we go down to the 5 members.
I think it'll probably be easier, Commissioner.
To do it-
To be
to
a
do a
smaller
committee
committee,
of
the less
five.
quorum, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I don't have no problem with that, but, and if anybody don't have anything else to say, I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion to take it to a public hearing.
Now, are we doing just for the P and Z, or are you gonna look at the entire revisions that Alan and Rachel they did, was it last year or year
Yeah,
before?
6 months ago.
6 months ago?
I'm going to second Commissioner Sanders' motion, but if we can have a little bit of discussion.
Yeah.
Commissioner Sanders, I do like the concept of 5 because we have had a problem having a quorum, and we've got a couple of folks one I've already received the resignation on, Larry Perriman.
Yes.
That will be
Yes.
effective end of January 1st of
And he shows up,
I mean,
Commissioner.
and he's very faithful to attend. My only concern with this is that could we make the quorum a supermajority of 4? Because what I could see the potential for is if 3 is the normal quorum for the 5, you could potentially have one part of the county not represented. You'd have 3 people making potentially planning and zoning decisions for, you know,
For
the
part
whole
that's not
county.
there, so
Yeah.
that represents.
So you're saying make it 4 for supermajority?
Make it the quorum, have 5 members, but having 4 for a supermajority.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yes,
may.
sir.
I mean, I don't know how you do that. I just see the potential
Yeah,
of,
that's the new one for me, Commissioner Jack. I'm certainly not representing the board this morning that you can't do that. Typically, quorums are always constituted by a majority of the board, for example, with this board. If we have 3 members present, you have a quorum present, and the board can act lawfully. There are certain actions under law, for example, the TDC issues. If you want to amend your spending plan for the TDC, you can have a quorum of 3, but you'll have to have a supermajority vote of 4. So if you were to have a quorum, but not at least 4 people present, then you could never amend the spending plan. So there are certain supermajority vote requirements, is my point, but I've never heard a supermajority quorum requirement. So I would need to look at that.
Okay.
I'm not saying this morning that you
well,
couldn't do
maybe I
that.
didn't say that in the correct way. I guess what I'm trying to achieve is that if you have 3 people out of the 5 that would consistently attend the meetings, unfortunately, what that would create is an environment where 3 people are making all the decisions for all 5 districts in the county,
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Yes, sir.
even though they serve the whole county. I'm just looking at a way to balance that out.
I understand what the staff is recommending here, but our current zoning code, our current zoning board is made up of a lot of different categories. You have a seafood worker, you have a seafood dealer, you have forestry, you have a real estate person. You have a lot of different categories that just go into a 5-person board. And this board functioned really well during the big land development boom from 2001 to 2006 when everything crashed. It functioned really well. And I understand that we're having trouble filling some of these slots and some of these positions, but to just, it's something that the board really needs to look at. It's not just 5 people sitting there. You got people representing different interests, business interests across this county. And it's not about where they're from or where they're going. It's about you're diluting now the people in these different sectors of our economy and of our community down to 5 people. And to me, it's just not that simple, and it shouldn't be that simple. If you want to go to a 5-member board, then we need to look at the whole board and the categories that we currently have and which ones you want to delete from there. And what you're doing is you're deleting different segments of our community now that's going to have a voice in these projects that are being reviewed.
That's certainly possible, Commissioner, but forestry is a good example. Forestry used to be a big industry in Franklin County. It's no longer a big industry. So that would be
And they haven't been attending.
Right.
And it's hard to find some of these people to fit these categories. I understand that, but I don't think we need to just wipe it away here without looking closely at what we're doing, why we're doing, and which categories we're going to maintain, which ones we're going to eliminate. Or are we just going to have just a broad 5-person board? You need different sectors of your economy and different sectors in your economic development structure within the county needs to be represented. Right now, we're really slow, but we do see permits picking up some. And if we went back to where we once were, or even close to that, then you're gonna want more people represented. More people are gonna go have a voice of how we change our zoning code, what we're allowed to come into this county, and that could be
Let's just
a
have a
number of
public
different
hearing.
things.
Commissioner Sanders' motion was just to have a public hearing.
It was just to have a public hearing.
Can I recommend, is it possible to tie some of what the seats were made up of to that district that it represents? Like, if it was forestry, agriculture, you could tie it to that district?
The problem is then, give an example, then one district is stuck with only representing
Seafood
seafood
worker,
or
yeah.
only the real estate. And that's why I was trying to avoid that.
And that's what my problem was with the whole thing, because now you don't have a lot of participation with that, just like with the airport committee. You don't have a lot of participation with the planning and zoning board. The ones that you do have that's participating has been on there a pretty good long time. I know one that was there prior to 1998. So, I mean, he's always been the constant one. At the same time, I realize that you don't want the same three people doing the votes. Well, we got a project in hand right now that everybody's fussing over, you know, because somebody from somebody other's district is making decisions for it. Well, we can't have that. It's gotta be universal across the board, and it's gotta, I agree with Smokey, it's gotta be representative of all that. Is there any legislation or any, language change from the original planning and zoning, language that came down in the, 1980s, 1990s?
P and Z board was created back in the 70s. something
It's
like
still,
that.
I mean, that's what I'm saying, has anything changed to change those categories?
The lack of participation has gone at this point. And
No, I know, you asked me to try to find somebody with a forestry, and it's so hard to,
that's
Well, we
what
can
I'm
look
trying
at the
to-
categories and we could eliminate, if we wanted to eliminate
Have you
something we
advertised?
can.
Have you advertised to see is anybody interested?